G'day all. Today I want to talk about buying CB radios off eBay and the pros and cons of buying CB radios off eBay. I've been buying and selling radios off eBay now for about 8 years. Started with a Chemtronic SSB 1000, which in the States it was a Pace SSB 1000. I first bought one of those radios with my first pay packet, believe it or not. I think I got $48 a week back then, and the radio cost me $52 from Garden Electronics over here in Perth. And geez, I love that Chemtronic SSB 1000. I thought it was a duck's nuts radio, and little did I know that it was actually a bit of a junker. And because I couldn't afford, I used to buy CB Action, and I couldn't afford the Cobra 148s and all the flash stuff. Just being a first year apprentice chippy, so that was my first radio. So yeah, 40 years later, I suppose. Yeah, it would be about 40 years later, decided to get back in the CB radio. For whatever, I don't know what happened. I had an epiphany. What a great idea. I'd had UHF radios in my four-wheel drives. UHF, for those who don't know, in Australia, not in Australia, that's sort of the new CB radio. That's in a 477 meg band. But I never really used it. There was too many idiots on there, and people in Australia would realise, identify with what goes on UHF radio. So yeah, got it back in CBs, bought some, sold some, and it just morphed. And as everyone does, it turned into a bit of a hobby and an obsession, really, sometimes when it comes to buying and having that radio and that radio, and which led me to the TRAM D300. So I bought this guy about a month ago. It wasn't cheap. TRAM D300s are not cheap, but because it didn't have a speaker, I got it fairly cheap, pretty good price. I'm fairly lucky. I've got 3 D300 speakers. I've got a standard D300. I'll go through this one in a minute, and you'll see why it's not standard. You can obviously tell by the background of the meters, the color of the meters, that it's not standard. So I've got a speaker for it. So things to watch out for when buying radios off eBay. First of all, you got to do some background on the seller, find out if he's actually actively selling radios, and when he sells a radio, if it's under parts, not working. And then, the one I love the most is no returns due to golden screwdrivers and part swappers. Like, give me a break. That's a red flag to me. That usually means there's something wrong with the radio, and he knows it, and he just doesn't want to get a return. I see that a lot, and it's crept in a bit. I see some sellers in Australia sell right that now. And in Australia, the market's fairly small. It's a fairly tight-knit community, I would say. There's not too many clowns out there. So when I see that on an Australian radio for sale, I think straight away, yeah, this guy's trying to rip somebody off, and you can tell straight away. Okay, I bought this radio underused. The seller did say, look, it's got an intermittent transmit problem when it gets hot. And I thought, okay, so it could be the regulator, it could be something in the PO circuit. Anyway, I thought, okay, I'll take a punt. D300s are really hard to get hold of. So got the radio. He wouldn't ship it to Australia for eBay Global, so I've got a US postage place in Sarasota in Florida, and then they ship it to me via DHL Air, which isn't cheap, as everyone knows. Air freight these days is criminal. But I thought, yeah, it's worth the punt. You don't see too many of these come up, and they go for big bucks, and this was like half the price. This was a pretty well-priced radio. I was pretty happy with it. So I'm going to turn the radio on, and then we're going to go through what I was told was on the radio, but what is really on the radio. So we'll turn it on now. It's running on 110. So hopefully it's not too glary for everybody. So I knew it had a frequency counter. That's fine. I knew that the blue LEDs and everything like that, it looks a lot better in real life than it does on the camera, because the refresh rate of the camera versus the LED, it doesn't correspond, so to speak. So there's a couple of things that were not told to me, and this guy would have known, because I looked at his history. He'd been selling a few radios. He wasn't a muppet. He knew about selling radios. Obviously, he was in the hobby, or for whatever reason, buying and selling, do whatever. So when I got the radio, turned it on, Yeah, no problem at all. The first thing I do is I let them warm up, see if they transmit. And I've got an original TRAM microphone here, sorry. And guess what? After I was told it's got an intermittent transmit problem. Audio. Look at the frequency counter. That's not an intermittent transmit anything problem. He would have known about that, but refused to disclose it. What's it, self-scanning down? Or what's it doing? Okay, strike one. Strike two. Extra channels. He would have known about that. Strike three. Watch this. I'm on AM, okay? When you change from AM to upper side, lower side, the frequency shouldn't change. The frequency is the frequency, no matter what. So, oops. So we're dropping down 20 hertz on each side of the frequency when we change modes. Strike three. Yeah. So we had variable power. We had extra channels, no transmit, and this. So there's four. Strike four. Strike five would have been the fact that the clarifier changes frequency on AM, which is also a red flag. So there's five things wrong with it. After I specifically asked the seller, and he had the radio all lighted up and everything like that, what's wrong with the radio? Please tell me now. So we don't need to get to the stage we're about to get to. Oh, no, mate, no, it's fine and everything like that. Well, guess what? It's not fine. So I'll probably put in a claim or anything like that. So these are the things to watch out for when you buy from eBay. Look, it ebbs and flows. You win some, you lose some. I think you usually come out in front. You can pick the radio. It's usually the seller's profile that you've got to look for. If he's selling something under parts or not working, and he comes up with some random bullshit description about, oh, I haven't had time to test it, and then you go for his profile and you see for the last year or 2 years, he's been selling radio gear, you know straight away, red flag. No, there's something wrong, and he's just not disclosing it on purpose. So they're the sort of thing. The golden screwdriver stuff, the part swapper, that's all garbage. You know, I've sold that many radios, touch wood, in Australia, and I've never had a problem with that. And now I see it creeping in, as I said, creeping into Australian sellers. Oh, you know, no returns due to part swappers and golden screwdrivers. Give me a break. That usually means there's something wrong with the radio. So if I was not as competent as I am in fixing radios, and I've still got a long way to go, I wouldn't buy those radios. If anyone, stay clear. If it's under parts are not working and golden screwdrivers are mentioned or part swappers, you know there's something drastically wrong on the radio, and be prepared to suffer the consequences if you pay top dollar for it. And that's basically it. You know, it's a pity. This is a great radio. They are so hard to find. So I'm just going to go back to the seller and just see what he says. I don't know what else is going on in here. Channel 9, not too sure where channel 9 is. It'll be around here somewhere. Looking. I can see channel 9 on here. Must be under monitor. Oh, yeah, channel 9. So, yeah, it's got extras. You know, if it's got extra channels, why not just bloody well say so? No big secret. So they're the sort of things you need to watch out for. Look at the seller's profile. If he mentions golden screwdrivers, part swappers, you know that they're red flags, especially if he's been selling radios for his profile for years. They're the things. Ask as many questions as you can. Look, most people are fairly honest. You know, there's a lot of places, a lot of people in America that buy into, you know, those storage wars type thing, or deceased estates, or garage sales like we've got over here. And they're fairly honest. They just want to make $1. They want to flip the radio, make $1. Fair enough. You can sort of weed those people out. But it's the guys that sell all the time that they're the ones to watch out for. If they're not honest, you can usually figure out, hang on a minute, this guy's not been forthwith here in regards to this radio. And yeah, it pains me to say it, I've been caught. No problem at all. But I do have recourse, and the seller's just about to find out about that. I might take a hit for a couple of $100 of air freight, but this guy's, if I can't work out a deal and I've got a fair idea what's going to cost me to get it fixed, this radio's going back. And it's going back and it's going to cost him. I cannot claim the freight back from Australia back to Florida, but I can claim the freight back from Florida to, I think this came out of Minnesota or something like that. So he'll have to pay that freight back and everything like that. So that's what I said. I'm just going to take a hit. But if I can't fix this radio, there's no point in me keeping it. For whatever reason, it might as well go back and he can wear the cost. And we learn and live for another day. Okay, thanks for watching. 73s, don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Hopefully the next radio works, whatever it's going to be. Thank you for watching 73s.